What's going on, y'all? So I wanted to talk about Straben, the heavy class, and what I feel like is wrong with it. I feel like the heavy class is probably the worst managed class in the game. It is not the worst class in the game, but I feel like it's the worst managed class. And largely is just because of its perks. It's a great class. I think it's one of the best classes in the game, but I also think that the perk design is horrible, probably the worst, if not the worst. And the builds aren't dynamic. So I'm not an expert in perks in this game, like some creators are, but I can definitely go through these and just kind of give my opinion. So I love this perk. I think this perk is great. Wouldn't change anything about it. I think this perk is amazing, well designed. But the problem with this line of the perk tree is that it doesn't make you want to pick anything else. Like, you could either deal damage over time to any enemies within your halo within 5 meters, or if both your squad members are incapacitated, you get that 15% range damage, boost. Now, this perk literally hinges on you playing with bad teammates or just low skill teammates, or you playing some content in the game that's going to make it to where there's a high likely chance that you're the only person left, and that's not a fun time. And once players have put enough hours into this game, this perk becomes really useless. It's very niche. There's not a lot of times if you're playing with a good squad. Even if you're playing solo, with even a hard stratagem or hard weekly will make it to where you're, like if you're playing solo, this perk is if you're playing with bots, this perk is completely useless. But if you're playing with average teammates and you're a high skill player, you don't need the chances of you going down and being the last man standing. It's like it might happen, but even if it does, you probably won't die if you're high skill, and even if you do, wouldn't you rather just get damage over time? It's like it doesn't make any sense to me. This perk is miles better than this one, Coolant Reserve. So now let's go to the third perk in this tree. When Iron Halo is active, all squad members within 20 meters regenerate their ability 50% faster. This perk for your teammates obviously is a great perk, but for you it sucks. If I use my ability, everybody gets their ability back faster. It's like, that's cool, but why should I care about my teammates that much? Like, everybody should be good enough at the game where I don't have to waste a perk line on getting your ability back while I expend mine. And it's like, this is not a bad perk necessarily, but if it means that I'm not going to pick offensive capability, then now it's a bad perk, because it's all in relation to what else is there, right? So this is the problem with Heavy's tree, is that so many of his perks are just, there's one good one and the other two, or just like, why would I ever pick that? So let's go to this line right here. You got Brute Force. When the Halo is in cooldown, the range damage increases by 15%. Great perk. If I use my Halo and I don't have it at the time, I'm getting a range damage buff. How can you argue with that, especially as a heavy? Now, this perk is good, but the other perks in the line are what matters to tell you how good it is relative to the other two. So, reviving a squad member fully restores Iron Halo's charge. Why would I care about reviving teammates more than getting a 15% range damage buff? And why is my perk tree focusing on other people being bad at the game? The same thing with this perk right here. It's like, these are two perks that are just all about, and I think these perks were designed when the game was new, and they expected people to be like going down left and right, and you need your teammates to pick you up, and hey, I got you. But once players have put enough hours into this game, if you're playing with even an average squad, no one's going down like not that much. You know, even in the in-game content, it's not to the effect where, like I said, where you're wasting getting a 15% range damage buff here, getting a halo that does damage to any enemies around you. You're missing out on so much damage not picking these two perks. You wouldn't pick these other two. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you go to this one. It says, when Halo expends all of its energy, enemies within a 10-meter radius take significant damage. This perk is not a bad perk, but it's horribly designed. It should work more like Radiating Impact, and it definitely should not set off explosives around you. I don't know why they haven't fixed this perk. I don't know why they made it to where you have to expend all the Halo's energy. It should work when you deactivate the Halo every 90 seconds. Or when you activate the Halo. You know, I would say probably more if you manually deactivate it. Because if you want to put your Halo up because you're getting range damage coming at you, that's cool. But like, say if I run into a pack of enemies and I want to deactivate it, and I know it's going to let off a big burst of energy the same way Radiating Impact does on Tactical's perk tree, then that's cool. And this perk effectively is Radiating Impact, but it doesn't trigger manually, and it blows up explosives around you for some reason, but Radiating Impact doesn't. And you look at the Assault class, the Ascension perk, where when you fly up in the air, enemies take damage. That perk used to blow up barrels, and they fixed it. So why don't they fix this one? This is why I feel like they've almost purposely left Heavy class in the dust. Maybe because they feel like if they fixed his perk tree, he would become too powerful. But I find that to be cheap. I think you shouldn't focus on balancing so much that you leave the perks broken and you don't make them dynamic. It should be about making the gameplay dynamic, making, you know, the perk trees work how they're supposed to work, and the perks work in some, like, instead of focusing on balancing the classes, let's focus on balancing the perks that are in the perk tree. Can we do that first? And then we'll figure out, you know, power scaling on the classes. So let's go to the third one. Iron Halo loses energy 20% more slowly. I'm not mad at it. Recharges 20% faster, but durability is reduced 25%, and then durability is increased 20%. This I feel like it's fine. I don't think this needs to really change that bad. I feel like there's nothing really wrong with this line, but the only thing I will say is that I do feel like the field adjustment is the best perk here, just because of the nature of the game and how you can basically spam your ability, and if you turn the Halo on and off, you can get it back faster. And if you're spamming it on and off, the durability doesn't really matter. Durability increase, I don't really think that really matters. I mean, maybe if you want to just sit there like a stone and just tank shots, but I mean, if you're Heavy's gonna put people on execute pretty fast, so you don't really need to leave it on. And if you spam it on and off, you get these benefits a lot better anyway. You know, you get your range damage. If I spam my Halo on and turn it right back off, for that time period until it recharges, I get my 15% range damage buff. And then there's some more perks that are towards the left that I haven't gone over yet that turn on when the Halo is on. So spamming it on and off is just, I think, the way to go. Loses energy 20% slower. I don't think this is a bad perk. I just feel like the 20% faster recharge is the way to go here. And I believe that with all classes, that anything that gives you your ability back faster, usually, not probably all the time, but usually is the way to go. We got consecutive execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge. cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, I think this is a great perk, especially for heavy, because heavy, like I said, the Wrath of the Imperium perk is, in my opinion, broken. And this perk allows heavy to kind of get like a get out of jail free card, where with this perk, you basically have the ability to be explosive, to play at close range, which this game is really kind of all about in a way. Like, this game is all about getting armor back and getting executes. So if you can drop bombs like meltas and get executes while you drop them and blow them up at the same time, this perk is amazing. Or throw grenades and stun enemies. You want to be close though, basically, is what I'm saying. You know, this grenades in this game work best when you're right up on the enemy. Like crack grenades. Crack grenades, you really want to use them, in my opinion, on like aerial targets, like zoanthropes, or anything that's tanky, really. So I feel like this perk, I feel like a heavy being able to regenerate grenades is really good. But this is the first perk tree that I feel like it is debatable that you could be choosing Adamant Will. Where after your Halo deactivates, you take 20% less health damage for 10 seconds. And this is what I meant before, where spamming the Halo makes much more sense. So that since I'm getting my 20% health damage coverage for 10 seconds, if I spam the Halo, I'll never have it be gone for more than whatever amount of time. You know, I can only spare 10 seconds before this perk is pointless, right? So spamming the Halo goes right with this one. I choose consecutive execution just because I feel like heavy's already tanky. You know, heavy already has a lot of perks that make him tanky. And then so this is his starting perk. When the Halo's active, all squad members within 50 meters take 10% less range damage damage. So he has perks all across the board that make him tanky. I don't feel like I really need this Adamant Will. I do believe that it's a good perk, and I wouldn't argue with a person who wanted to pick it, but I think it's just preference. Do you want more defense or more offense? I'm going with more offense. He's already tanky. He doesn't need more health, in my opinion, unless you're just someone who struggles to stay alive. There are times when I feel like you don't really need consecutive execution, particularly if you're playing with a tactical who has secure stockpile. This perk becomes like it's not that it becomes pointless. It just isn't as good, you know. Like if I have a melt bomb in my possession and I'm playing with a tactical who has secure stockpile, who's giving me a melt bomb every 60 seconds, then killing 7 enemies doesn't give me another melt bomb, right? And then now this perk becomes kind of useless in a way, unless I'm dropping the melter, killing 7, getting it right back, dropping another, and then getting another melter bomb within that 60 seconds. And usually you're not dropping melters that much, even on the highest difficulties. You know, maybe if you're playing Siege, maybe if you're playing hard stratagems and you're playing with a really bad squad, but you get my point. Emperor's Protection, when Iron Halo expends all the energy, one armor segment is restored for all squad members. Once again, same thing with Wrath of the Imperium. The problem with this perk, Emperor's Protection, is you have to expend all of the energy in the Halo. Why would I do that? Why would I it's like the same way a sniper shouldn't kill his whole cloak. Why would I expend my whole Halo and now I have to wait like 80 seconds, 90 seconds plus for another until I can do anything ability wise, it doesn't make any sense. Just to get one armor segment back, that makes no sense at all. This perk should be when you turn your halo on, you get one armor back, or when you turn it off, you get one armor back. I mean, when you manually, or it should just be what it is here, and then say, or if you manually deactivate it, you'll get one armor back and put it on cooldown, the same way you do with everything else. And I feel like that's the problem with these kind of perks that they put on Straben, is that why didn't they just put it on cooldown? Make it so where when he manually deactivates the halo, he gets one armor back, but put it on cooldown every 90 seconds, every 60 seconds. That would make much more sense. And why does this have to be about for all squad members? And you see, when they designed this class, they really seem to try to make it about other people. And I feel like that's where they may have went wrong with Heavy. They made it too much of they tried to make it like a support class. I don't know why. Okay, let's move to the team perks. Okay, so you have encompassing aegis, you have additional supplies, and you have bonds of brotherhood. Now, all squad members take 25% less range damage from range attacks. You carry more ammo, or reviving a squad. Like, it's why are there so many reviving perks? This perk is horrible. And I hear so many people say bonds of brotherhood is a great perk. I don't get it. I've never taken this perk. I don't mind this perk. Don't get me. If I do go down and I have a heavy pick me up who has this perk, I don't mind it. Don't get me wrong. Getting all my health back when I get back up, cool. That's cool. But I don't feel like it's worth not picking. Getting a 25% range damage buff from damage. Like, I take 25% less range damage on range damage. I would rather take that than me getting my health back if I happen to go down. You see what I'm saying? That makes no sense. Give me the range damage protection. That's where you're going to take most of your damage in this game. This team perk is way better. You can make the argument 25% more ammo is great as well, but I don't think it's really necessary, especially when you consider the prestige where you get, a magazine for every extremist kill or finisher. So, Straben does kind of struggle on ammo. I don't know why. They gave Tactical a perk that gives him pretty much unlimited ammo, but they didn't give it to the one class that literally his whole point of his class is dependent on ammo. This game is so backwards with the way they've done this, but it is what it is. So another line where I feel like there's only one obvious decision here, in my opinion. And that's to take the range damage protection. Like I said, if you want to take more ammo, fine. I get it, but I don't feel like ammo is that big of an issue with Heavy. He does kind of struggle if you're running a true solo. But that's why I believe this auxiliary reload really comes in handy. But I also would make the argument that the problem with Heavy is that he doesn't have the right perk. They should give him this perk right here. When you get a Majora's kill or higher, and you notice this thing about Emperor's Vengeance on Tactical, it doesn't even say finisher. You just have to get a kill of a Majora's level or higher enemy, and your primary weapon ammo restores by 1 magazine, and it's every 30 seconds. Why does Heavy not have this perk? It makes no sense. Heavy doesn't get a melee weapon, but he won't get that perk. This is what I'm saying. They messed this class up. or the perk tree at least. And I feel like the reason why they haven't fixed this stuff is because they feel like Heavy's already so strong that if they actually made his perk tree make sense, he would become just OP. He would break the game almost probably. Like we got three left, and then the perk, and then the prestige perks. So we got versatility. After switching weapons, your pistol is going to be 20% more damage until you reload or switch back to your primary. I think this perk is great. This is another line where I would feel like I wouldn't argue if you chose different perks here. I do think that the stumps or the melee damage increased by 30% is a little bit underwhelming. I've tried my best to try builds that make this perk work. It never feels worth it. It just never. Maybe because his Heavy's just not designed to be a melee class. So even doing stumps kind of feels underwhelming. It feels like, why would I stump if I could shoot? And Heavy has so many weapons on his primary that just melts enemies into executions. It doesn't mean that this perk is pointless. It just means that it's underwhelming compared to if my Halo's active, everybody, including me, myself, gets 10% more range damage. So it's like I already have a pretty strong primary weapon that does a lot of damage. I think I would rather take a 10% damage buff on top of that, melt enemies extremely fast when I turn my Halo on, rather than just having to do stumps that leave me vulnerable, that don't do a lot of damage as it is, And like I said, you can. I wouldn't argue if someone chose this 20% damage on the pistol, because this can really stack well. If you want to melt enemies, like if you have a plasma pistol, I love plasma pistol in this game. If you switch to the plasma pistol and you charge it, you get a 20% buff. You could do a lot of damage fast to enemies, but still, ammo economy becomes a issue really fast there as well. This perk is also great for like the heavy bolt pistol as well, but I still don't think it's better than just me getting because I feel like the Heavy's best weapons are in his primary. I think that's what I would rather buff than the pistol. The pistol is like, you could buff it 20%, but I'd rather buff what is already strong into something that's even stronger. But I digress. We got two more. While in Heavy stance, damage deals 50% more contested health, but you can't move. So I feel like strategic stance is not a bad perk. Strategic stance, excuse me. It's not a bad perk. I don't like that you can't move. Sometimes this perk makes you feel like you're stuck in mud and you need to dodge, and there's like a delay between when you release the button and when you actually can move, and it can get you killed, or it can get you put into stun lock really fast. Like if you're this is the problem with this perk. It will make you not lose control taking heavy hits, right? But then if there is something coming at you that you like, oh, this is about to take all my health away, the only way to not die is to stand there and just play Russian roulette and just think you can tank the hits while you shoot and hope that the contested health keeps you alive. And a lot of the time it will keep you alive, but there is a chance always that you're gonna take in more damage than you thought. Or if you're not a great shot like I'm not a great shot. I don't have a great aim, especially on console. If you're not constantly hitting your target, this will get you killed. And when in that moment when you're going, I don't think I want to tank this shot, let me dodge out the way, that delay between you being stuck in this heavy stance and you being able to dodge, you're going to get hit, and then you're going to lose all the benefits of this perk anyway, and you're going to die anyway. The only counter I would say is taking 30% more health. You may not need this perk because heavy already can tank shots very well because of perks like this, or the fact that he does so much range damage that he's constantly pushing executes anyway, right? So that's something that just, like, even this perk right here, you take 25% less damage from range attacks. You're not taking a lot of damage anyway, so perks like Fortitude they're less effective. They're not ineffective. They're just Fortitude only really matters if you're really dying a lot. And then you also have Thermal Boost. I feel like this is another perk line where this is probably one of the more balanced perk lines where you can make an argument for either one of these three. I do feel like Strategic Stand is not worth it here. I think the only reason why I have this one selected is because I was playing around with, like, even though I have these appends on these perks, I constantly try them again. Even the ones that I think I don't like, I try them again, because as you progress in any game, obviously you form new opinions. So, but I think Thermal Boost might be the best perk here, but I oftentimes take Fortitude just to make sure that I am more tanky, that I never die, because you never know what kind of teammates you're playing with. And then you have Restoration. I love this perk. Every 15 seconds, if I kill 7 enemies, I get an armor back. It's easy. This is one of the easiest ways to get armor. I never really notice it, to be honest, because if you're killing enemies, you're probably getting armor back anyway because you're getting executes, and you're probably not getting hit that much, especially because you have a halo up. But the problem with this perk line is that this one is only good for the multi-melta, which I don't use often. Killing 5 enemies gives you 1 ammo shot back. I gotta kill 5 enemies, which is probably going to be Minoris, excuse me. So I kill 5 Minoris and I get 1 multi-melta shot back. I could have just did my stumps at that point. I didn't really need to, maybe you could argue that this makes it to where if you're using a multi-melta on Minoris enemies, you're not wasting ammo. But why only for the multi-melta? Why not make this true for all his primary weapons? So that way Heavy's not wasting ammo, which happens to be his primary and almost the bulk of where his ability and power comes from. Because once Heavy runs out of ammo, you're going to have a bad time. Auxiliary Ammunition says when your primary weapon is out of ammo, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores ammo for 20%. This kind of perk, you can make the argument that it's not a horrible perk, but I just feel like if I have to find the only way you're killing 7 enemies in rapid succession when you don't have primary weapon ammo is you're going to have to find a pack of Minoris. And what are the chances that you will? You may not. You may face a grip of Majoris, and it has to be Tyranids almost, because you can maybe get this. I don't know for sure if this perk works with the Synapse Burst, but it probably does. It may not. Synapse Burst is when you kill Majoris or help, level enemy or higher on the Tyranids, all the Minoris enemies die. I would think this perk would trigger for that. Many perks across many classes do at a similar like to this. I just feel like it's not worth really banking on that. I think the better way to play is just conserve your ammo, play smart, don't waste it, because you will run out if you waste it. And I'd rather just be tanky and get the armor back. Last but not least, let's now look at these prestige perks. Okay, so stump area of effect increases by 15%. once again, I feel like the stumps are just underwhelming. Melee kills gives you ammo back. I have at times not chosen this perk, but you will find yourself, especially if you're doing like a true solo, running out of ammo. You will find yourself, if you really get attacked by a lot of enemies and maybe your teammates aren't the greatest teammates, you might find yourself running out of ammo, and then you might find yourself in an area where a terminus spawns, and you're gonna have a bad time. As heavy, who gets, I don't know why they force heavy to have a balanced parry window, but that's what they did to heavy. You're gonna have a bad time. You may not die, but no ammo sucks. So auxiliary reload is just the way to go, I think. I feel like this perk, you don't need it until you need it, but when you need it, you're very grateful that you picked it. When your armor is fully depleted, you take 25%. I'm pretty sure I took conviction. Yeah. So I love any perks that make me tanky. You know, pretty much almost any perk that makes me tanky. I will take other perks if they make sense. I just don't feel like some of these other ones make sense. So I took auxiliary reload, I took conviction, I took exponential force, indomitable spirit, the gun strike, and the melee damage increase. So I don't really even think exponential force is really that good. I just don't believe that indomitable spirit really does that much for me, to be honest with you. Especially, I'm not a big gun strike person anyway. The only thing about heavy is that they force you to play a balanced window, so you're kind of using a lot of gun strikes. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth between these two perks right here. I wouldn't argue, honestly, actually, now that I'm kind of on the topic, I really wouldn't argue between whatever one you pick. You can make the argument that indomitable spirit is worth it. I just don't find myself missing it. I don't know why. Now this one gives you a 25% less spread on your weapon. Maybe if you're using the what is this weapon called? The heavy bolter, maybe. But I don't feel like heavy's weapon spread is that crazy where this is really that serious. I feel like this is probably one of his worst prestige perks, in my opinion. And then this is perfect parry and perfect block windows increased by 25%. I feel like this is another horrible perk. You have a balanced window, and that sucks, but it's not that hard to parry. It's not that hard. The only thing I wish is that heavy had access to block windows, and then I could charge up that damage received into stumps or whatever. But I don't feel like duelists. I almost never take perks that open up my parry window or block window. I maybe if you're new to the game, this is a good perk, but I feel like after a certain amount of hours, you want more offense than you do just perk window increase. 25% more is, I don't think it's that serious. Balance windows do suck though, so that's the only. But like if you're choosing this duelist perk, really becomes pointless if you're using the heavy bolter, which gives you a fencing window. So you're getting a 50% increase on your parry window, which means like that perk and your perk tree becomes instantly pointless. And every time you want to reset, you're spending 750 coins to do it. So it's like I just would rather never pick this perk, so I never have to spend 750 coins to take this off whenever I use the heavy bolter, which is as simple as me going back to going to any weapon cache and changing my weapons to a heavy bolter. Why would I? That's why I would never really pick this perk. I feel like they should just give heavy access to all block windows, stop the games. Why is he the only class that does not have access to all the block windows? Who cares if you give him a melee weapon or not? Give him access to all the block windows. But like I said, I feel like the best ones here, and then I'll close out, is auxiliary reload, conviction. You could argue between these two, but honestly, you don't. Even though I have this melee perk here at the moment, you don't really feel this one either, in my opinion. This one is only good if you really run out of ammo and like you want to do like a charging attack. You know, the 100% more damage maybe. But I don't know. This one's only really good if you're just more worried about not being knocked back on heavy hits during the gun strike. And then this one also, home precision, I think is not worth it. You know, so conviction, auxiliary reload, any one of these two. I wouldn't be mad if you lean to an indomitable spirit. And then this one is not that great. It's just like duelist to me sucks, and home precision sucks. And that's honestly what I kind of feel is like, I've only picked this melee buff because these two are just really not that great, and I just don't think I ever would need them or use them. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on heavy perk tree. What I think is really wrong with him, and what I feel like if they changed it, it would make him so much better.